There comes a moment in every man's life when chaos around him seems unstoppable, when the world mocks discipline, peace, and honor. But within that storm, there lies a forgotten path, one walked by kings and warriors, by men who faced the same chaos and refused to be broken. That path is Stoicism, the philosophy of self-mastery, calm, and inner strength. It's not just a set of ideas, but a code for life, and Marcus Aurelius was its greatest embodiment, a Roman emperor who ruled the world but never let the world rule him. Marcus Aurelius didn't live in peace and comfort. He ruled during wars, plagues, betrayal, and loss. Yet his mind remained untouched, serene, grounded, and powerful. While other kings conquered lands, Marcus conquered himself. He understood the truth every modern man forgets: you can't control the world, but you can master your response to it. That is where real power begins. Imagine being surrounded by enemies, fake allies, and constant pressure, and yet, your mind remains still as a mountain. That's what Marcus achieved. Through Stoicism, he learned to look at life not as a battlefield of emotions, but as a test of endurance. Pain was his teacher, and calmness his weapon. When everything went wrong, he didn't ask, "Why me?" He asked, "What can I learn?" Stoicism teaches one lesson most men ignore: that suffering is not your enemy, it's your initiation. Every obstacle you face isn't blocking your path, it is the path. Marcus wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words are the heartbeat of Stoicism, to turn every hardship into a forge for your soul. Modern men run from discomfort, seeking pleasure in distraction, but Stoics ran toward the flame. Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus, they all understood that comfort weakens, but struggle strengthens. Each trial was a training ground. Every insult, a lesson in patience. Every loss, a chance to detach. This mindset didn't just make them philosophers, it made them unshakable. Marcus believed that the most powerful man is not the one who can command armies, but the one who can command his own thoughts. Every day he reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In this truth lies the foundation of a Stoic life: self-control, clarity, and resilience. To walk the path of Stoicism, you must first face yourself. You must question your impulses, your ego, your anger. You must see that the war is not out there, it's within. Marcus Aurelius fought that war daily, not against enemies, but against his lower self. Each victory was silent, unseen, but it made him immortal in wisdom. Men today are told to chase fame, wealth, and validation. But Marcus chased virtue. He saw how fleeting everything is: the applause of the crowd, the power of position, the love of people who can change tomorrow. Everything fades, he said, fame is oblivion, and the only wealth that lasts is character. Stoicism is the art of focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. Every morning, Marcus would wake before dawn and write to himself, not to impress others, but to remind his soul of its duty. He'd write, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today, I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Yet none of them can harm me, for I will not let my mind be corrupted. That was his shield, awareness. This is what separates the weak from the wise. The weak react, the Stoic responds. The weak are slaves to emotion, the Stoic is its master. The weak break under pressure, the Stoic becomes sharper. Marcus Aurelius knew that when you stop trying to control others and start mastering yourself, the world bends in your favor. In every age, men who mastered Stoicism stood apart, calm in chaos, silent in victory, graceful in defeat. Their aura was different, not of arrogance, but of unshakable peace. People could feel their presence without them speaking. It wasn't magic, it was the result of self-discipline and detachment. Stoicism doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. It teaches you to feel deeply, but not to drown in those feelings. It teaches you to care, but not to cling. Marcus cried when he lost loved ones, but he didn't let sorrow enslave him. His strength was not in emotionless living, but in emotional control, the power to rise above pain without denying it. The Stoic understands that life is not fair, but it's still good. Because fairness is not promised, growth is. Marcus didn't complain about fate, he embraced it. This acceptance, called amor fati, means, love your fate. To a Stoic, every event, even tragedy, carries a hidden lesson meant for your soul's expansion. When you walk the Stoic path, you begin to see life differently. You stop asking for an easier path and start asking for more strength. The storms that once terrified you now excite you, because you know, each storm is an opportunity to become unbreakable. You begin to crave challenge, because peace without purpose feels empty. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from those he trusted most, yet he forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because anger would poison his mind. Forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was freedom. The Stoic forgives not to excuse others, but to protect his peace. The Stoic doesn't fight for applause, he fights for mastery. He doesn't seek comfort, he seeks alignment with truth. He knows that virtue, courage, wisdom, justice, temperance, is the only true measure of greatness. Everything else is illusion. Marcus ruled an empire but lived like a monk, for he knew material power fades, but inner power endures. To live stoically is to live in the present moment. The past is smoke, the future is mist. Only the now exists. Marcus wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He knew anxiety is born from future fears, and regret from past chains. Freedom lies only in this breath, this choice, this moment. And in that moment, you decide who you are. Will you be a slave to emotion or a master of it? Will you crumble under judgment or stand rooted in your values? Stoicism is not about suppressing your humanity, it's about refining it. It's about being a lion that roars within, not a wolf that howls for attention. The Stoic's calmness intimidates the world because it cannot be understood. People fear what they cannot control. When you embody Stoicism, your silence speaks louder than noise, your stillness carries more power than aggression. You become like fire, untouchable, self-contained, transformative. The modern man who embraces Stoicism becomes a rare breed, one who leads not by dominance, but by example. He speaks little but says much. He acts not out of impulse but intention. His strength is not loud, yet it's felt. He doesn't chase power, power follows him. Marcus Aurelius was called the philosopher king for a reason. He ruled the mightiest empire but remained humble. Every night he reminded himself, "Soon you will be dust and bones." That humility gave him perspective. Stoicism reminds us that death is the great equalizer. It humbles pride and gives meaning to each action. When you remember your mortality, you stop wasting time. You stop chasing validation. You start living with purpose. Marcus said, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." That's the essence of Stoicism, urgency in goodness. The Stoic knows that pain will come, but he meets it like an old friend. He doesn't wish for ease but for endurance. The world can take your possessions, but not your principles. It can silence your voice, but not your integrity. It can break your body, but not your will. So when life tests you, remember Marcus. Remember that power isn't in rage, but in restraint. Not in shouting, but in silence. Not in control of others, but in mastery of yourself. This is the path of Stoicism, the path of kings, philosophers, and warriors. Every day is a battlefield for your soul. Every thought, every reaction, every emotion is a choice between weakness and wisdom. Stoicism is not an escape, it's your weapon. The calm man is not passive, he's prepared. The still man is not weak, he's focused. As you grow, you will lose people. You will be misunderstood. But a Stoic doesn't need to explain himself. His peace speaks louder than argument. His eyes carry discipline, his words carry weight, and his presence carries balance. That's what makes him untouchable. In this modern world of chaos, where outrage is fashion and distraction is currency, the Stoic stands apart, a fortress of composure. His discipline inspires respect. His stillness provokes curiosity. And his silence terrifies the weak-hearted, because silence is the mark of control. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations for the world, he wrote it for himself. Yet those private words became the guiding light for millions. It shows that true greatness doesn't seek attention, it radiates it naturally. The Stoic doesn't chase legacy, he builds it with every action. To walk this path is to live with intention. To wake up knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to display character. To speak less and do more. To live so grounded that even in chaos, you remain centered, like a mountain amidst storm clouds. This is why Stoicism still echoes centuries later. Because it's not tied to time or place, it's human truth. It's the blueprint for strength in a weak age. The Stoic doesn't react to the world, he creates his world through perspective. That's the ultimate freedom. The path of Stoicism is not glamorous. It's quiet, demanding, and lonely. But it transforms you into something rare, a man who needs nothing to feel powerful. When you stop being moved by everything, you start moving everything around you. You become magnetic. Marcus Aurelius lived and died by this truth: control your mind, and you control your reality. That's why even centuries later, his wisdom outlives empires. He mastered the art of living, and through his teachings, he invites you to do the same. And so, the question remains: will you walk the path of Stoicism, or let the world control you? Will you master your mind, or remain a slave to emotion? The choice, as Marcus said, is always yours. Remember, the path of kings is not easy, but it leads to freedom within. This is not just philosophy. This is a way of being. The Stoic doesn't seek applause, he seeks peace. He doesn't avoid the storm, he becomes the calm within it. And when you walk this path, with honor, with discipline, with clarity, you too begin to rule, not others, but yourself. This is Stoicism. The fire that burns within great men. The strength that no chaos can destroy. The silence that echoes louder than words. The path of kings, walked not with crowns, but with control, not with armies, but with awareness. It's time to walk that path. But the path of Stoicism does not end with calmness, it evolves into transformation. Once you begin mastering your emotions, life begins to bend differently around you. People sense your stability. They can't read you anymore. Your silence becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Marcus understood that, when the world cannot control your reactions, it loses control over you entirely. True Stoicism is not found in grand speeches, but in quiet restraint. It's not the fire that burns outward, but the heat that stays contained within. The Stoic doesn't suppress emotion, he refines it. His anger becomes fuel for action. His sadness becomes wisdom. His fear becomes focus. In this alchemy of mind, every weakness transforms into strength. Marcus lived with this principle daily. Surrounded by politics, betrayal, and deceit, he could have easily become cynical. Yet he chose empathy. He wrote that men do wrong not out of pure evil, but out of ignorance. That understanding gave him peace, a reminder that compassion is not softness, it's mastery over hate. To forgive in chaos is divine strength. The Stoic man doesn't react to noise, he studies it. He observes human behavior not to judge, but to understand. When you reach this level, you begin to see the patterns, how fear drives people, how greed blinds them, how emotion enslaves them. And in that observation, you learn how to remain free while others remain trapped. Freedom, to the Stoic, is not living without rules, it's living without mental chains. You can be rich and enslaved to desire. You can be poor and still free through perspective. Marcus saw slaves with more inner peace than emperors. Because freedom begins not in status, but in state of mind. There's a unique power that comes when you no longer crave control. When your focus shifts from outcomes to effort, from ego to excellence. You stop chasing validation, and start embodying value. This detachment doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you unstoppable. Nothing external can truly shake a man who has mastered his internal. Marcus wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This is the Stoic challenge: stop discussing, start doing. Modern men drown in motivation videos, but lack discipline. They talk of strength, but flee from struggle. The Stoic doesn't talk about greatness, he becomes it, quietly. Discipline to a Stoic is not punishment, it's liberation. It's choosing structure over chaos, order over indulgence. It's saying no to the impulses that weaken you and yes to the habits that refine you. Each day you delay gratification, your spirit hardens, your focus sharpens, your energy purifies. This is how a man transforms. But make no mistake, the Stoic path is lonely. When you begin to detach, people will misunderstand you. Your calm will be mistaken for arrogance. Your silence for pride. Your distance for coldness. But that's the tax for evolution. Those who seek depth must walk alone through shallow waters. And yet, that solitude becomes sacred. You begin to hear your thoughts clearly, to feel your instincts unfiltered. In silence, your soul speaks louder. That's why Marcus often wrote alone, in the dim candlelight, not as an emperor, but as a student of life. His journal wasn't a display of intellect, it was a conversation with his higher self. When you live stoically, you stop chasing happiness and start building harmony. Happiness depends on moments, harmony depends on mastery. A Stoic understands that emotions are waves, beautiful but temporary. He doesn't fight the tides, he learns to surf them. That balance is what makes him untouchable. Each Stoic principle is a weapon. Temperance guards you from excess. Courage teaches you to face fear without flinching. Justice reminds you to do right even when unseen. Wisdom gives you vision beyond emotion. When combined, these virtues make a man both powerful and peaceful, a rare paradox. In chaos, a Stoic finds clarity. Where others panic, he plans. Where others complain, he adapts. His composure becomes his signature. Marcus Aurelius didn't lose control because he knew control is never given, it's chosen. You choose how much power you hand to anger, fear, or pain. Most men give it all away, the Stoic guards it fiercely. Modern life is a war of distractions, constant noise, endless opinions, emotional manipulation. The Stoic's strength lies in staying centered amidst this storm. He doesn't allow news, trends, or critics to invade his peace. He filters everything through reason. Because reason is the Stoic sword, sharp, steady, and silent. Every hardship Marcus faced, betrayal, war, disease, he treated as a test. He never asked, "Why me?" but, "What for?" That subtle shift in language changes everything. Stoicism isn't passive endurance, it's active transformation. Pain, once understood, becomes purpose. And purpose breeds power. When a man becomes Stoic, people feel his presence differently. There's gravity to his stillness. He doesn't need to prove himself because his aura already speaks of discipline. People either admire him or fear him, but they can't ignore him. His peace becomes a mirror, reflecting the chaos others hide inside. Marcus wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." That's the Stoic call to action, to stop existing and start living with depth. Each moment becomes sacred, each breath a reminder of impermanence. When you realize life is short, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. The Stoic doesn't chase excitement, he creates meaning. He doesn't seek comfort, he seeks challenge. Because challenge reveals character, and character is the only thing you carry beyond time. That's why Marcus' words still breathe centuries later. They weren't theories, they were lived truths. Every man has two lives, the one he lives, and the one he's capable of living. The bridge between the two is Stoicism. It's not about killing your emotions, it's about mastering them so deeply that they serve you instead of sabotage you. That's emotional sovereignty, the mark of true kingship. As your discipline grows, your perception sharpens. You start seeing the invisible threads connecting cause and effect. You begin noticing how every thought shapes your world, how every reaction dictates your fate. The Stoic lives consciously, every act deliberate, every word intentional. That's what separates him from the drifting masses. When you embody Stoicism long enough, your very energy changes. Your presence becomes heavier, more grounded. You walk slower, speak less, but every action carries purpose. People may not understand why they respect you, but they will feel it, the aura of control, forged in silence and struggle. Marcus often reminded himself that life is borrowed time. "Soon you will be ashes or bones," he wrote. That reminder wasn't morbid, it was motivation. When you remember how temporary everything is, ego dissolves, urgency awakens. The Stoic doesn't waste days, he uses them as steps toward mastery. Powerful men of every era, samurais, monks, warriors, lived by Stoic principles. Because they understood one truth: a man who conquers himself can never be conquered by the world. That's why even now, the Stoic code remains the unseen backbone of every strong soul. When storms rage, a Stoic doesn't resist the rain, he becomes the mountain that endures it. When insulted, he smiles; when doubted, he builds; when hated, he forgives. This doesn't make him weak, it makes him immortal. For no wound can pierce a man who's made peace with pain. There will come a day when you are tested, when life will demand everything you've built. In that moment, your emotions will scream, your doubts will whisper, and your fears will rise. But if you've walked the Stoic path, your mind will remain calm. You will act with precision, not panic. That is mastery. To live stoically is to walk through fire and come out unburned. It's to be calm in noise, patient in pressure, humble in success. It's to choose meaning over pleasure, virtue over victory, and purpose over popularity. That's what separates a man from a king. The world doesn't need more loud men, it needs more grounded ones. Men who move with quiet conviction, who think deeply before speaking, who live as examples instead of explanations. That's what Stoicism produces: leaders without thrones, warriors without armor, kings without crowns. Marcus Aurelius didn't seek followers, he sought truth. And that's why truth followed him. His legacy wasn't written in gold, but in grit, in pages of self-reflection, discipline, and service. He proved that greatness is not inherited, it's cultivated through daily victories over self. The Stoic life isn't glamorous, but it's liberating. You stop seeking external control and start building inner command. You no longer chase people, you attract respect. You no longer drown in emotion, you surf it. You no longer live reactively, you live intentionally. This is the art of calm dominance. In the end, Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming limitless. When your mind obeys you, when your emotions serve you, when your thoughts no longer betray you, you rise above human weakness. You become, in essence, your own emperor. So let the world scream, let chaos dance, let the weak complain. You, remain still. You, remain composed. For the storm will always pass, and when it does, the Stoic will still be standing, stronger, wiser, and freer than before. That's what it means to walk the path of kings, to lead with reason, to endure with grace, and to rule with restraint. Marcus Aurelius showed us that true power is silent, steady, and sacred. It doesn't need crowns, it only needs clarity. And now, the torch is yours. The age of noise is here, but the path of Stoicism still waits, ancient, unshaken, eternal. Walk it with courage. Walk it with purpose. Walk it like a king.